Why can't people just be precise? So, I mean, look what happened to ABC.
This is wildly ridiculous.
It's about holding major media outlets accountable.
It was a bad poll. It happens.
The people in Iowa, their newspaper, we're filing one on 60 Minutes. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while. And
in this video today, CNN is freaking out because Trump threatens to sue additional media outlets for defaming him. Also, the White House, John Kirby, is finally admitting what we've always known all along about the drones in the skies of New Jersey. And Canada's Deputy Prime Minister dropped her resignation papers today. And of course, Trump was there to troll Justin Trudeau. But let's start with the supercut of the media companies defaming Trump.
It's egregious, and you know, this is now different from 2016 because he has been found liable for rape. So it's.
But I do think the Democrats also need to look at him and go, why are we not beating this guy? Why is this convicted felon, this man has been found liable for rape?
At the end of the day, what we know from Donald Trump is that he has over 24 credible allegations of sexual assault. We know that he was found liable for rape.
If you don't want to be held liable for rape like Donald Trump has, don't grab the woman's genitalia.
I just have to say, I'll take those concerns seriously if you also express concerns about the allegations. He's been found liable for rape.
And my only message to all of these individuals is this: if you guys don't want to be held liable for defamation, or if the network doesn't even want to go through that nasty process, why don't you guys stop lying about President Trump, huh? Why don't you guys just report the facts and keep it there? But when you guys cross the line and start making this about a personal beef with him, like George Slopinopoulos, then you end up like them and you deserve the consequences, right?
I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers love me, and I love the farmers.
Now, let me give you an example of how they're freaking out. Here's Jake Tapper responding to the threat that Trump stated in his press conference this morning, that he's going to sue media outlets.
And we should note, Kristen, I don't want to overstate Trump's friendliness and genial attitude at this press conference, because this weekend ABC News agreed to pay $16 million, including legal fees, to settle a defamation lawsuit brought by Trump against the network and their anchor, George Stephanopoulos. And that obviously will not be the end of this campaign against the media, legal campaign against the media. We heard him go after many other news outlets today. Take a listen.
So I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper. We're filing one on 60 Minutes. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward. We have one, very interestingly, on Pulitzer, because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax.
We don't have time to go into all of that, but just to touch base on a couple. There's one of them is the people of Iowa, the Des Moines Register. That's because there was a poll that was inaccurate. Mm-hmm. The one on 60 Minutes is because they didn't like the editing that had been done to the Kamala Harris.
From Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, this is wildly ridiculous.
Now, the same way that Jake Tapper feels about Trump threatening to sue these other media companies is the same way that American citizens have always felt about the media. You guys are wildly ridiculous with how you report on Trump and how you guys have been withholding information, how you guys manipulate information, how you guys have actually turned into activists instead of just being true journalists where you report the facts.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind here is that Donald Trump feels like he won. I mean, this weekend, by having a settlement with ABC, one that many people did not think was going to come to fruition. They thought that this would end up in court, or that it would certainly not be a settlement in which ABC paid $16 million and issued a public apology, which was part of this has been a situation which has empowered and emboldened Donald Trump.
So it looks like she also got the talking points that Brian Seltzer was using over the weekend. Embolden is that new term. You guys keep paying attention. You'll continue to hear that word, of course. So the bottom line here, what Trump is doing is he's highlighting a broader issue. And what is that? Well, major media outlets often make defamatory claims without any repercussions. There's zero accountability. All right. So good on Trump for doing this. And we know why ABC doesn't want to move forward and go to trial over this, because there might be even more corruption that ends up being exposed. I don't know. How about that presidential debate?
Is he trying to intimidate the media with this strategy?
I think he is well within bounds to play the game that he thinks they're playing against him, which is to lie about him, to, try to shape the narrative around him in ways that he doesn't believe are accurate. My belief is, why can't people just be precise? So look what happened to ABC. They were not precise in what they said, and you can't be so flip with this kind of serious information when we're talking about, the public affairs of our country. I mean, I've been on TV over the last several years with people who I thought were really loose with their language and how they described him. I've heard it on Pete Hegseth. I've heard it a number of times.
We've been saying this for some time now, that every time we have to react to what the media is saying, we always leave thinking, man, how do they get away with talking that way? It's not about reporting facts anymore. They don't even care about the truth. They care about the narrative. And sometimes that narrative is violent. It is defamatory. It is out of touch. It's based on delusion. But here is Allie Phillips telling you otherwise, that it's actually Republicans who are defaming individuals, not Democrats.
I'm on the internet every day, Al Gore's internet, and I see all kinds of smears against Democrats being perpetrated by the new media in conservative circles. Are those folks ready to be sued?
No, that's not what's happening here. As Scott said, it's about holding major media outlets accountable in a game that they're one-sided on. And that's the way. It's not about the money for Trump. He's not doing that.
Now, the problem with Abby Phillips and her argument here is, even if what she says is true, and I bet I could find people on the right defaming people on the left, but defaming wouldn't be the correct word, because defamation implies that not only is the person knowingly saying something that is false, but it is actually causing harm and damage to your reputation. Now, I don't see how we would be able to damage CNN's reputation any further. I don't see how we could damage Joy Reid's reputation any further. I think they've damaged their own reputation by how much they lied to their own audience. But hey, that's a whole nother thing. Now, speaking of damaging your reputation, we know John Kirby, who is the National Security Communications Advisor from the White House. You know what he came out and said about the drones? What we've all been saying. Listen to this.
You hear all of these officials. You've heard a lot of concern, a lot of coverage. Where are you tonight on this?
As we look at the information we've got, Brett, and we've now examined some 5,000 different sightings, we've added detection capabilities, additional observers. As you and I stand here today, to date, our assessment is that this is lawful, legal, commercial, hobbyist, and even law enforcement aircraft activity. Some of it's manned, some of it's unmanned. We absolutely acknowledge that a lot of these are probably drones, but they're flying legally. And it is legal to fly drones in non-restricted airspace as long as you're registered with the FAA. And there's thousands and thousands of these kinds of flights every single day. I think there's more than 1 million drones that are registered with the FAA just in the United States alone.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So these drones are part of the federal government then, right? Military, law enforcement, hobbyist, commercial, private. Is that what you're saying now? I mean, why didn't you tell us that a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I mean, you guys are so pathetic. I mean, just think about his answer there for a second. No wonder you guys couldn't shoot him down.
Okay, the Homeland Security Secretary said over the weekend that right now they don't have any foreign involvement, criminal activity. We don't see them as a national security concern. How can you get to that point? How can you get to that conclusion with what you're seeing?
Because we've done the analysis. We've done the detection and the analysis. We've corroborated the sightings. And in every case that we have examined to date, we have seen nothing that indicates a public safety risk There are drones flying over the skies of the United States every single night, every single day, and we've seen nothing in and around New Jersey that should give the people on the ground there concerns for their safety for this activity. And we've seen nothing, working with the Department of Defense as well, that indicates a foreign adversary actor involved or any kind of pernicious national security threat. Now, there have been some drone sightings, I think, as you know, over some military bases. We're obviously looking at that. That is a different category, and DOD has different authorities to deal with that. But again, we've also seen no disruption of operations at our bases in New Jersey either from any of this.
Okay, so clearly he's continuing to lie because that's part of his job description. So let's go ahead and show you guys some of the facts here. He just claimed that the drones that have been flying over these military bases that had caused an actual air base to shut down actually was not disrupting operations. Really? Watch this story.
An alarming drone incident that forced one of the U.S.'s most critical Air Force bases to close its airspace for several hours. This happened at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base over the weekend in Ohio. And just in, new air traffic control audio obtained by military news website The War Zone of the moment it happened.
Med Flight 8 Patterson Tower, use extreme caution for heavy UAS movement on the base. Security forces is handling the situation, and I gotta keep the lights down so that security forces can see.
Ohio, now the latest of several states to report drone concerns as scrutiny over the federal response is building.
Okay, so I got to ask you this. If you could put your answers in the comment section below. What do you believe is actually happening here? Because John Kirby says, oh, everything's fine. It's all good. It's all legal. There's no foreign actors or anything like that. You guys have already know what my stance is. I believe it's been the military this entire time. But of course, the White House doesn't want to come out and tell you that because they don't want to create panic. But let me know what your thoughts are about this. Now, I know the drone story has been entertaining, to say the least, for the past few weeks, but I got something that's even more entertaining for you. The Deputy Prime Minister of Canada has dropped her resignation papers. Yes, Justin Trudeau is clearly struggling at this point, which is why when I show you what Trump had to say about this is going to make you laugh. So here's what he had to say. The great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigns or was fired from her position by Governor Justin Trudeau. Her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada. She will not be missed. And here is the actual resignation letter that she delivered today, December 16th. And I'm just going to skip to some important parts of this letter. Here's the first one. On Friday, you told me you no longer wanted me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in the cabinet. Upon reflection, I have concluded that the only honest and viable path is for me to resign from the cabinet. A second thing that she said here, our country today faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. So clearly, Trump has literally disrupted Canada, and he isn't even in the White House yet. We need to take that threat extremely seriously. That means keeping our physical powder dry today so we have the reserves we may need for a coming tariff war. That means pushing back against America First economic nationalism with a determined effort to fight for capital and investment and the jobs they bring. And then she also said, I know Canadians would recognize and respect such an approach. They know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. Inevitably, our time in government will come to an end. The bottom line here, folks, is she should have resigned years ago. He should have resigned years ago. People in Canada do not respect the current party in charge right now. That's just the bottom line. I don't live in Canada. I don't know everything about Canadian politics, but I can look at the results, and the results show me the current leadership. They have failed miserably, and the citizens never miss a chance to remind them of that. If you did a Google search or went on YouTube, you would find an abundance of clips of what I just showed you. His entire reign as the prime minister has been plagued by his own citizens calling him out at every single turn for the fraud that he really is. Everybody knows he has sold that country out for globalism for whatever reason, we don't know. But clearly he's not respected. He's ultra corrupt, and he's not really about Canada first. We know that. So at this point, there's only two scenarios. Number one, he will resign any moment now, today, tomorrow, in the next week, or they're just going to wait all the way up till March, and then he will obviously vacate because that party is going down in flames. And by the way, Poly Market has it at 80% chance that Justin Trudeau will resign before the end of his term. So answer this for me in the comment section below. What grade would you give Donald Trump's post on Truth Social about the finance minister resigning? Now, we started this video about Trump, and we're going to end this video about Trump because the next one that you can watch coming up here shortly is about his press conference this morning at Mar-A-Lago, where he dominated the media the entire time. He did take questions. The entire press conference was about an hour and 10 minutes, but we actually summed it up with a few of the highlights, of course. And there's additional stories that will probably pique your interest. If you guys want to check that video out, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.